Hi everyone, my name is Kopi Paindara Sinaga, and today I'm gonna be talking to you about mental illness. We all know mental illness has no prejudice. It affects people of every race, age, gender, religion, and economic status. It doesn't discriminate between Republicans or Democrats either. That's why we are here today. We need to send a simple message to our nation's leaders. Mental health matters and needs and must be taken seriously. 43.8 million adults experience mental illness every year. That's a high prevalence of mental illness. Yet, why is it something we're still afraid to talk about? Mental illness is among the number one cause of disability in US, costing nearly $200 billion in lost wages annually. Depression, number one cause of disability worldwide. Suicide rates continue to climb among adults, adolescents, and even children. Every year, we see the loss of celebrities and prominent figures to suicide. The opioid crisis continues to devastate our communities, costing over $100 billion annually. Yet, we're still not courageous enough to talk about mental illness. In our society, mental illness is stigmatized more than any other illness or condition. We can see examples of stigma every single day, and we might not even realize what stigma looks like. Read the news, turn on the news, scroll through social media, overhear a conversation on the street or at work, you are bound to hear an example of stigma. You might not even realize it. And those individuals that are stigmatized face barriers and obstacles getting the help that they need. And it creates a bigger burden of untreated mental illness for our society and our healthcare resources. Now, some of this lies in a misunderstanding of psychiatric diagnosis. The brain, pretty cool, but very complicated. Modern science has still only just begun to understand how this works, let alone understanding what happens when there are issues with the brain functioning. There are many factors that contribute to the onset of mental illness: biological, environmental, social, genetic, stress trauma. We still don't quite understand the interplay of all of this in our brain. Unlike back injuries, cancer, diabetes, we can't go get a scan. We can't go get an x-ray. We can't draw labs to diagnose mental illness. We can't see mental illness in the brain. Therefore, we have to rely on subjective reports and observations to get to a diagnosis. For many people in our society, this discounts the realness of mental illness. You can't see it. It must not be real, right? This also leads to a lot of misunderstanding that people witness and with mental illness can control it or snap out of it. Or those people who can't are weak or lazy or have other personality flaws. We would never have these expectations of somebody with a broken leg or cancer. Now, other stereotypes begin to form. Because of this misunderstanding, the main one is fear. We have seen mental illness become synonymous with danger, violence, instability, and aggression. This isn't what mental illness really looks like. Yet, this is the picture that's painted over and over again. News media sensationalizes violent events, often portraying the suspects as mentally ill homicidal maniacs. Movies, television, social media, even video games, all follow in line with these fearful representations of mental illness. How many movie villains have mental illness? Think about it. This leads our society to label and seek separations from individuals with mental illness, causing them to feel stunned, isolated, feeling their own self-stigma and shame about their condition. There is a simple solution to breaking the cycle of stigma, at least the first step. If we, as a community, can talk about mental illness in a respectful and real way, we can start to break that cycle. Education about what mental illness is and what it isn't can challenge people's misconceptions and stereotypes. It can also begin to change people's misunderstandings on a personal level. We can put aside our own prejudice and our own false beliefs and simply show empathy to those people and family that are dealing with mental illness. It doesn't take much. Now, if we, as a community, as a society, as individuals, can start to see people with mental illness as people rather than their diagnosis, we can take that first step to breaking that cycle. And we will also start to see that people with mental illness aren't any different than you and I. The first step is having that courageous conversation. So, isn't it time we stop the stigma? It may just start with a handshake. Thank you.